Men Stories, and the world turns on obsessions.
Roland Willard's All Men Stories. This is Lou Hoglund. And Lou, you live in Pelican, right? Or you live somewhere around?
I do, yes, I live in the area, absolutely. On a lake not too far from here, near the Cormorant area.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Well, right now, by the way, you're going to hear that little beep in back every time. We looked all over and couldn't find the beep, so we get to share a story with the beep. So, is that all right with you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Lou is, by the way, Lou is one of my heroes. He writes, and he writes phenomenal. He's a writing god. And because he wrote an article for me, and I loved it.
He was a good subject matter. Yeah,
Well,
as you can tell, Roland is a good subject.
So, what Lou is here, our current show is going to be on obsessions. And Lou has an obsession with singing, music.
Music, not a singer, but I've been a music enthusiast all my life.
Oh, do you belong to a band or singing of some kind? Or?
Well, I play with a local brass group, mostly Pelican Rapids area people. We do a different church about once a month. We do some community parades, and we do some pep bands at the Pelican Rapids High School. You know, we'll do some pep band playing during basketball games, and we all just have fun. We're not that good, but I have been in a couple of dance bands or nightclub bands, more on a hobby basis, kind of a paying hobby basis.
Oh, paying hobby, okay.
So, but I have not worked actively in an actual paying band for a couple of years now.
Oh, okay.
And it's always been just sort of one weekend a month or one or two nights a month. I never was in any real highly professional manner. So.
Do you ever sing?
No, I don't sing. No,
I mean, you're not one of those. There's a whole bunch of them around here that are in those barbershop quartet.
And they're very good. If you ever get a chance to see them, go check them out.
Oh yes,
The Heart of Lakes Chorus, I believe.
Josh, yeah, right. And one of the Bradens, his grandfather, his mother's side is a big, one of the barbershop quartet.
Mm-hmm. And they're very good. They put on a fun show with some costumes and some routines and a little bit of shtick, So.
Have you interviewed any singers?
Over the years, I guess. Yes. Nobody real famous. Well, I take that back. When I was in my college days, I interviewed a few. One of them was Alice Cooper, actually.
Well, that's a little famous, I would say.
Yeah, and then and I was kind of a blues and jazz enthusiast, so I interviewed Willie Dixon, who was an old blues man, and I interviewed Muddy Waters, another Chicago blues man. So there's been a few over the years that I've interviewed, and I've always liked music, and I think what I really wanted to do when I was young and foolish was I wanted to write for the Rolling Stone magazine.
Oh.
But that never quite materialized. But
didn't quite happen. Huh?
But I've been writing I've been writing more as a generalist now for the last 30 years or so.
Well, you sure do phenomenal at generalist. Did you do Weed Fest?
I did do an article on Wee Fest, but it was a long time ago.
Tell them a little about what Wee Fest is, because this is all singing.
Wee Fest is, I think it's probably considered one of the largest country western music festivals in the nation, close to it. I was there. I'm not a big country fan, so I went there once, and this is probably 20 years ago almost now. I really went to see Ray Charles.
Oh.
And That's actually a pretty good story, come to think of it.
Oh, what happened?
And it so happened that I was kind of happy that I chose to go to Wee Fest as a spectator, because Tammy Wynette was on that day, and so was Merle Haggard. So I got to see 3 real classics, you know, and Merle Haggard, I am kind of a Merle Haggard fan. He's a storyteller. And Tammy Wynette, of course, is a legend. But the headliner was Ray Charles. And he went on probably about 9:30 at night, and the clouds were forming overhead. It even had tornado-like appearances. And they brought a small assembly of Fargo Moorhead Symphony Orchestra members to back him up,
Wow.
along with his regular band. You know, he had a regular band, smaller unit. And they hired string players with the Fargo Moorhead Symphony Orchestra to come over and play with him. Well, of course, he's blind, and you could feel it in the air. It had that real feeling of pending doom, you know, when the sky's moving a little
Yes,
bit,
yes.
it's dark, and there's this sort of chill.
They have those around here a lot.
Right, and Ray Charles, and I wasn't backstage, so I did not witness what happened there, but he was, there were accounts written and reported later, but he was quite, you know, nervous about the conditions, and of course he couldn't see what, you know, that probably adds to the stress, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
He did, I believe, 3 or 4 numbers, and he walked off the stage because he was too afraid of the weather conditions. So that was my first and only chance to see Ray Charles, and it was cut short,
By weather.
which was unfortunate.
Yeah.
And I have been to Wee Fest since, but more in a volunteer capacity, because certain charities will sell concessions, and you know, I worked a concession just as a volunteer a couple of years, but I'm not a regular at Wee Fest, but they attract something like 40,000 people. You know,
For a weekend, isn't
Yeah,
that something?
it's-
Wow.
in Detroit Lakes. It's kind of sort of in the middle of nowhere, but it's just a huge annual event. So that was my only brush with Ray Charles, and it was too short. And of course, he died some years later, and I never had a chance to see him. So there's story number 1.
So that was so good. That was a wonderful story. Mm. Have you sang? Have you tried singing?
Well, not really.
Choir? Or
No, I
anything?
never did choir. I guess in some of the dance bands I just sort of jumped around and sang a little bit of backup
There you go.
vocal, but I think they turned the mic down on me. Secretly. So I wouldn't call myself a singer, so.
Oh, okay. Well, I said when I have 4 years of this, and my next 4 years, in my last, in the 74 to 70, I'm going to be a country western singer. And if my kids don't walk out of the room, I'll be really good.
Are you musical?
Oh, terrible.
Do you play anything?
No, I don't play
Guitar?
piano.
Okay.
But that doesn't matter. You know, all you have to do is attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Attitude. And, you know, what I have to do is learn how to move the music to my voice. Okay?
And you can
And
write.
sort of tell a story. Yeah, you have to tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do that.
I could. I have a recommendation for your storytelling.
Well, what?
Robert Poirier. I just did a story on him in the paper, which is I work for the Pelican Rapids Press. It's a small shop, so I'm the one and only news guy, basically.
He's great news.
So, but that's what it is in a small town. You know, if you like what you're doing, which I do.
You do, yes. That's his real obsession.
Right. But I did a story about Bob Poirier. Poirier, I think he pronounces it, but it's a French, you know, derived name. He's an old country western singer, and you really should interview him because it's kind of a fun story. He was He's about 70, and he has a mutual friend, by the way, Gene Prim, I believe. He and Gene are acquaintances, if not classmates, maybe.
Oh.
But Bob Poirier grew up, he calls himself a Maplewood hillbilly.
Maplewood.
And that's interesting culturally that those folks down in Earhart in Maplewood, south of Pelican Rapids, they have kind of a backwoods energy and attitude. In fact, there's a nightclub there and a restaurant called Hillbillies. But so a lot of these folks really take pride. They call themselves Earhart Hillbillies or Maplewood Hillbillies. Bob Poirier grew up, he was a step kid in a large family near the grounds of what is now Maplewood State Park.
Right.
Apparently a hard-scrabble dairy farm. And he's one of these guys that remembers as a kid listening to a battery-operated radio, picking up Grand Ole Opry, probably up on the airwaves from 5 states away, probably.
Right.
So that's how he grew up. So he grew up. His youth sounds like a country western story, So you should interview him. But he talks about
yes,
and he's.
If we can get him on, that'll be one of one of the interviews.
But that's another one of those local characters you run into. And here he is, 70s. He's getting back into music now.
I said,
He kind of stayed out of it.
Yeah.
He was
Maybe
in the
we'll
excavating
do it.
business. Yeah. So you'll find him good. I'll put you in touch with him.
Cool.
So.
Maybe you can help me write some lyrics.
And I was going to mention, he just wrote a country western song that he's actually trying to kind of peddle it. And it's called, I don't remember the title, but it's actually a very good lyric. He reminisces about the old days listening to Grand Ole Opry as a kid. And so that's kind of an interesting slice of local history, the Maplewood Earhart Hillbilly. And they still get together in sheds and back shops down there and have banjo picking jam sessions.
I'd love to go to one of those sometime. That would be great.
I have not been to one, but they've invited me, so I'm going to go down there sometime.
Okay. Well, you've got to take off in about 2 seconds. You have a haircut appointment, don't you?
Well, I got a few minutes yet.
You got a
It's
few
up to you.
Okay.
If you've got
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll end this one and we'll start another one.
Okay.
Roland Willits. Old Man Stories.
Old men stories, give me one more day with my obsession.